1988 Ferrari 3.2 Coupe. And yes, I shamelessly stole Doug DeMuro there, but that's simply because he went over one of these recently, and it's a car that we need to talk about. So these are exceedingly rare in the US. So for the 3.2 Coupes, there were only about 90 US spec cars. This is one of 35 that came to the US in 1988. And I've dubbed it my cheap F40. And we'll get into that a little bit later, but this is a pretty modified and well-known car in the F-Chat online forum. So if you look up S&J5 in Ferrari Chat, that is this car. And we're gonna go over what makes it unique and special. In my past video, we kind of went through what makes 3.2 Coupes a really cool car, and this is gonna be more about how this car is different than all the other ones. So let's take a closer look.
So a lot's happened in the last 3 years since my introductory video to this car. I've got a new job, I've had a kid, I have another one on the way, and I do apologize for taking so long. Also, you'll notice the wheels are different in this car now, so I've done a couple updates to that as well. But I want to go over quickly the cosmetics of this car. So as you notice, we've done 348 wheels in gold. I had those powder coated. This car really looks a lot better if you just get the wheels up a bit. So they came with 16s, moving up to 17s really fit out the wheel wells. And also you'll notice this car sits a little bit lower. It's got Kone adjustable shocks on it. Decreasing that ride height just a little bit really helps the Mondial presence. You'll also notice that this car has E36 M3 mirrors. I think they're E36 M3 mirrors. They came on the car, and I also think that helps the look a lot. This is kind of, you know, it's a resto mod. It's not a standard car, so the little flares, the wheels, the mirrors, they really set it off. So anyways, looking at the interior of the car, you'll notice probably something straight away that these seats, well, the Mondial astute of you will know that these seats are not standard seats. It's something I had done aftermarket to kind of replicate the 355 seats, which I liked a lot. The stock Mondial seat, which I'll drop a picture in, they don't hold you the best when you're going around corners, and they certainly don't look the best, especially mine with the aftermarket headrests that the previous owner had installed on top of them. Just like me, and he wanted more neck support, but to me they just needed updated. They at least needed recovering. And so what I actually did here is I installed Miata seats. So these are actually M Edition Miata seats with separate headrests, which are pretty rare. I think they were a 1-year only option in the States. I found them and I had them recovered in leather to make them look like Ferrari seats. And frankly, most people can't tell that they're not stock. And they are way more comfortable and hold you a lot better when you're going down the back roads. Moving on into the inside of the car, you can see I've got a Momo Prototipo wheel here. So, you know, it's a little bit smaller in diameter, which does make it a little bit harder because this car is a manual steering. So in terms of parking, but once you're up and moving, it's really a delight. Another difference is the chrome shift knob right here. So those would have been black factory, but the previous owner did chrome. And some of the subtle differences. So this car, it was owned by a guy who was very well known on the Ferrari forums, and he tried out basically all of the new, you know, things that were coming out for this car in the aftermarket space. So the fuse boxes and things like that are kind of troublesome on these cars. The other thing is this center console. These are made of plastic and they're brittle and they start to get wavy and they crack. He had this made out of metal. So this is not plastic, this is metal. And then he had everything engraved to look factory. So the center console is a really big upgrade on this car. Another fun thing is this right here is normally just a little storage panel. I am missing a screw, but if you take that out, you can make it into a cup holder. So making the practical Ferrari even more practical. Some of the modifications down here, my gas pedal is not stock. That's actually a Maserati gas pedal that's linked up to the G-Link ECU, which we'll talk about when we get to the engine. But this is a drive-by-wire car now. And I also have cool cocoa mat floor mats, which kind of give it that, you know, that outlaw Porsche vibe, actually, which is kind of fun in a Ferrari. This is why I call the car a baby F40. So the architecture in the Mondial 8s, the QVs, the 308, the Ferrari 308, the 3.2, the 328, the architecture is actually very similar to what's in the F40, save for the internals of the engine and the turbo. The turbos on that. So this is a completely built engine. It's the original block to the car, but it's a built engine with a big old turbo slapped on it and a bunch of mismatched parts to make it all work. But the end result is 523 wheel horsepower at 11 PSI on E85. I typically run it on pump gas. It does have a flex fuel sender, and you're pushing a little bit north of 400 horsepower with that if you crank the boost all the way up. So it is a precision 6265 journal bearing turbocharger. The intercooler and heat exchanger are from a 2008 Celine Mustang. This throttle body, which I mentioned the Maserati gas pedal earlier, this throttle body is actually off of a Toyota Tundra. These coils are Toyota Tundra coils. And so, yeah, it's a bunch of stuff that makes this car really cool. You know, high lift cams, they're custom ground, polished imported heads with bigger intake valves. I don't know if I mentioned it, it has a Kevlar clutch. So a lot of things that make this car a very unique one-of-one Ferrari Mondial. And actually, it's all very reliable. So the original engine build, it was built to have carburetors on it with the, you know, 10-to-1 compression JE forged pistons. Was done at around 36,000 miles. I have I have every piece of documentation on this car, which is kind of wild to see. So that's the engine build. And then in this iteration with the turbo, it was built at right around 47,000 miles. And now I'm sitting at 54,000 miles, and it's frankly been pretty trouble-free. There's been a couple of little electrical gremlins, but it would not be an 80s Ferrari without those. So just going over the history of this car a little bit, it's really pretty fun. So this car was originally sold new in Arlington, Virginia to a real estate developer who owned it for a couple of years. He shuttled his kids to and from school in it. I've actually talked to him. He's a nice guy. Then it went to a flight surgeon, and he bounced around between Virginia and Texas and all over the place. And he's the one that turned this into a carbureted car. So this had, I think it was doing 320 wheel horsepower on Weber carbs. It was actually featured in Forza magazine. But before he did all that, he took it with him to Germany. So he raced it around the Autobahn with his friend who had a BMW at the time. And then when he was done in Germany, he had it shipped back. And funnily enough, like, this is not a perfect car. It's 100% a driver. I don't know if you can pick it up on camera, but right in here, you can see some cracking in the paint. And that's actually when they were shipping it back, the military dropped a beam on it and dented this whole section in. And I still have the original claims paperwork and the Polaroids of the damage on the car. So it's, you know, it's cracked and crazed along this line here where they did it. Not the best body work, but you know, that's what you got in the late 90s around in Virginia. But I'm hesitant to even want to fix this stuff because I love the story and I love the history of the car. That gentleman then sold it to a guy in Chicago who owned the car for not that long. So the flight surgeon owned the car from like early mid 90s all the way up until 2013. And then a gentleman in Chicago bought it, kind of just wanting a coupe, and it had these carburetors. And if you know anything about Ferraris and carburetors, they require constant adjustment and tuning. And this guy was just not the right owner for that. And so then it ended up languishing in his warehouse for 3 to 4 years. And then Aaron Bunch at ATS Racing bought it knowing online, because like I said, this car, S&J5 Ferrari Chat, you can find it. Knowing online it had this, you know, forged piston motor in it. He made his business building Toyota MR2 parts. You know, big turbochargers, 800 horsepower cars like that, 800 horsepower MR2s. He actually got into Ferraris and had a 308 that he built into like this 900 horsepower beast. He knew this car, saw it for sale, bought it, and then he did all this work to turn it into what it is today. This crazy, I don't know, 600 horsepower, 500 plus wheel horsepower beast that it is. The in-gear acceleration is just ridiculous. And I actually wasn't looking for a car like this. I was looking for a stock car. I was never a big modified car guy until now. Now I love them. But I found it. I was looking for a coupe, only wanted a coupe. We knew that we were probably going to have a kid soon, and I wanted to be able to put the kid in the back, which this car allows you to do. There's my son's car seat. And so I messaged in a Facebook Mondial group, does anybody have a coupe for sale? I've seen everything online and everything's either pristine. Well, there's only like one or two ever for sale, but everything's either pristine that I've seen or it's a basket case. I'm looking for a driver, and he sent me back this. And my immediate reaction was, that is really freaking cool, but that is not what I'm looking for. I was on a ski trip with my wife, and then we sat there for a second, and I was like, yeah, it's really freaking cool. And we both just decided to buy it. So he was in Texas, I'm in Virginia. So what we did is we met up at Radwood in Austin, and the car was there. You know, we got to enjoy the show, and we got to rev the car at the car show just a little bit. I don't advocate for, you know, just revving your car at a Cars and Coffee or anything like that. But a couple baby revs at the car show. My wife was hooked. I was in love with the car, and then we got it. We drove around Austin a little bit with it just to test it out, make sure it was good, and then had the car shipped back to us in Virginia. And like I said, the things I've done are the wheels, the seats, little odds and ends and things like that. But it's been a wonderful car. I take it to Ferrari events sometimes with our local MAR chapter, the Mid-Atlantic region. I think some people, it catches them off guard a little bit, but you know, the more avant-garde enthusiasts are definitely fans. And yeah, this is my mishmash of Toyota and Ferrari and Mustang and everything else in between, with all the preventative maintenance and services done that you'd want to do on a Mondial. So, you know, the fuse box, things like that, it's all good to go. And it's not red, and we love it. So that's a little bit on this car, because I know I promised that 3 years ago. Take care. Have a good one. And one last thing, be sure to like and subscribe. If I can monetize this channel just even a little bit, it'll give me the motivation to keep giving you guys updates on this, on my fleet and what I do with cars. We've got a good group down here in Virginia that we're always playing with new stuff. That's my daily, the Maserati Quattroporte Sport GTS. So maybe we'll take a look at that here pretty soon. Take care.